Every time there's a conversation online about fatherlessness, we hear the same statistics. Children who are born in a two-parent household are more likely to graduate, less likely to live in poverty, more often experience greater financial stability and emotional stability. And those things are true, but what about the other conversation that nobody wants to have? What about when the father is present and he's the source of the trauma? Because present and protection is not the same thing. In today's commentary, we're going to be looking at two stories where women had fathers that were present in their life but left them emotionally and psychologically wounded. Because a lot of times when you have conversations online about having a father and having a two-parent household, people always glamorize and highlight the benefits and the importance. They even talk about making relationships work. Although a person has stepped out in a relationship, they harper on keeping families together because of all of these great benefits. But we never talk about the opposite side of that. The fathers that did stick around and they were present, but they left you in more harm than a father that may have abandoned you. A lot of women become attached to the idea of maintaining a two-parent household because we've been taught that simply keeping the family together equals success. So instead of asking, is this household actually healthy, the focus becomes maintaining the image of a family at all costs. And sometimes we become so committed to preserving that image that we ignore what's actually happening inside of our homes. Historically, men have been positioned as the head of households, but that title hasn't always reflected who is actually carrying most of the weight in the household. In many families, women have carried a disproportionate amount of the child rearing, child care, cooking, cleaning, emotional labor, even while contributing financially. Yet we've been taught that simply having a man present somehow makes the household feel complete. And that's where I think we have to separate male presence from a healthy partnership. A man being physically present in a home does not automatically mean that he's more contributing to that home. Because if one person is carrying the child, the household, the emotional load, and sometimes the finances too, while the other person primarily benefits from the labor, we have to ask, who is the traditional family structure serving? The goal shouldn't always be to just keeping the man in the house. The goal should be creating a healthy family, stable household while both of those are contributing. A man gains status from having children. A man has his time freed up from having children due to the wife doing all the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry. And a man increases his influence. He is now active in the process of shaping young minds. So to have a family as a man is very powerful. I feel like the saying behind every successful man is a woman, behind every unsuccessful man and family is a toxic man, comes from this family dynamic.
A man in the house takes up a lot of resources, whether that be emotionally, physically, even if you see the way a man eats and packs his plate for dinner versus a woman. So when you have a man that is just dwelling in the home, not contributing to the makeup of it, a man that feels entitled to the benefit of the home, he feels a special sense of entitlement, superiority over everybody else in the family unit and home. Because the other half of the two-parent partnership is also emotionally damaged. Instead of recognizing the fact that this man is actually probably more of a plague on the home more than a healing force, they too will play into this hierarchy and superiority, often keeping the toxic man's feelings at the top of the pyramid while the rest of the family falls into disarray. Before you know it, the home is broken, all to support the ego of one man in the household. A man that actually makes living in the household harder, a man who doesn't contribute, a man that feels that anything else to be required of him would be to disrespect him, a man that hails as king yet knows nothing about his kingdom or anything about how his constituents actually feel about him, nor does he care. I find two-parent households often act as a cesspool for a lot of toxicity. There are many kids that would actually benefit from their parents separate rather than continuing with this performance of what is said to be the most healthy norm.
If you look up the term baby daddy or baby mama in 2026 or even earlier, you'll see thousands of people shaming women or men for not staying in toxic relationships because they're becoming a part of this bigger statistic. But I honestly think when we romanticize one family structure, we accidentally ignore the people who actually live inside of this unhealthy version of it. These are tweets from people that had a reality of a two-parent household. I used to dream my parents were divorcing. This was my family situation and I'm still suffering. I wish my dad would go to work and never come back. I used to pray my parents split, been in therapy for years because of this. I leave relationships so quick. I spent most of my childhood praying my mom would get the courage to leave my dad. She's still with him. I'm not going to say I don't understand why people stay because it's so much shame around leaving. It's so much shame of being on the other side of that statistic. I was scrolling online the other day and this story popped up and I resonated with it because a lot of people think if a dad is present, that means you had a good life. And then if a dad is absent, that means you may have daddy issues or that's bad or you should steer away from these type of people and relationships. But people don't ever think deeper than that. We don't have conversations online around stability, love, consistency, protection, and just having well-rounded and healthy fathers. We always just say, well, if a dad is present, that's good enough. If he takes care of you financially, that's good enough. Or if a parent did the best that they could, that's good enough. We don't really ever talk about the trauma of having a present parent really entails when it comes to fathers. I've seen the trends and things online where they say having a mother that hates you.
I knew I was dealing with a different type of mother when the day I finished my 1,500 hours in cosmetology school, instead of a congratulations, she said, "Oh, that's nice. You think you can go get your degree now?" Remind you, standing in front of me without a GED, a high school diploma, a college, nothing. But she say, "You think you can go get your degree now?"
I didn't even know that was a thing because the love and the relationship that me and my mother have, I couldn't imagine my mother being jealous of me. But I've seen those trends and it made me think, damn, that's a real thing, that mothers have actually birthed daughters that they're actually jealous of and they had to compete with them their entire childhood. And then when they grow up, they go no contact. But I didn't realize that having a terrible father can also be worse than having an absent father at all.
As a girl that grew up in a two-parent household, I hate that everybody just assumed everything was all peaches and cream. Sometimes people in two-parent households be having more trauma than people that never even had a parent. I just hate the assumption that we just live this perfect life and we have everything figured out because we just had two parents. No, sometimes households be toxic. Sometimes it don't be all perfect. It might not be as perfect as you think. I don't know. I just hate that assumption, even though my experience wasn't too bad. But a lot of people with two parents still had a lot of trauma in their household. Just because you got two parents, don't make. I'm not gonna lie. I just hate when people be like, "Oh, you had two parents, so your life is better than mine. Oh, you didn't have to go through what I went through. Oh my God, and then you don't know the struggle. You don't know the pain because you got two parents. You got a mommy and a dad." I understand that. I understand I got a mom and a dad, but my life is not that much better than yours. I'm just saying. You feel me? I'm just saying. Like your one single mom did a lot. I be just comparing. It's just like it's not a good comparison. Like just because you have two parents doesn't mean like everything was just rainbows and fairies. That's what y'all make it seem like. Y'all just got the worst life because y'all didn't have two parents, but it's not that much better. I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to downplay anyone's trauma that didn't grow up in a two-parent household. But I'm just speaking for the people that grew up in a two-parent household and they still get like discredited for a lot of stuff because they think everything was perfect because we had two parents.
Does he have me? He also has my two brothers. Now he's met this woman who has 4 kids of her own. You and your siblings were always forced to wear either a pajama dress or it had to be a big shirt. So mind you were literally in 6th or 7th grade. You go to school, you start to make friends, and there's one particular friend that your dad literally begged you to ask to spend a night one night. You just didn't think that he would go as far as to mess with one of your friends until you let your friend spend a night. You see that he's trying to take her cover off of her and you look up and he literally runs in his boxers to his room. You check on your friend the next day. Moving not too long after that, you end up watching a movie while your dad and your stepmom are gone with your brother, and your baby cousin comes inside of the living room on a bad scene in the movie and she tells you that she knows what a PENIS is and you say, "Girl, no you don't." And she basically says, "Dad, come and put that in my mouth every night and I have to go spit the stuff out in the toilet." Mind you, dad is literally my dad. Brother literally says, "What the hell?" He's always calling her inside of the room to go vacuum, but I never heard the vacuum. And so you're thinking, oh, okay, I finally have somebody that's going to vouch for her with me. And no, that never happened. So since you realize nobody's going to speak up with you, you're going to speak up for yourself. You say, "I'm going to run away to my friend's house." And you basically tell her everything that happened on the outside of your classroom, and your teacher was eavesdropping, and they end up contacting CPS, and CPS end up coming. And I said, "I'm for sure not going back now because they're going to beat my ass." You threaten your dad to give your mom contact information to you, and he does, and you never tell him exactly what happened. But when you got to your mom, end up telling her, he ends up bringing you to the place to get like recorded and tell them what happened. He made it out to seem like my mom was just being jealous. And later down the line, since nothing ever happened, I miss my younger sibling, you end up at 19 years old having a baby, and 18 months later you end up pregnant with your second son, and your dad decides, "Oh, to make it up to you, I'm going to throw you a baby shower at my house, all paid on me." You decide, oh, okay, maybe he's not that way anymore. Maybe God has saved him because he was a preacher. But you go out there only for when you have to change your son's pamper, you and your friend go inside his room to change your kids, and you look up and there's a camera above y'all. You decide that you're going to post about it on Facebook, and the whole family blocks you and basically, declared you the black sheep of the family, and you haven't heard from them for 3 years now.
So she goes on to explain how those experiences as a child affect the way how she views men, trust, intimacy, and relationships. And I think the hardest thing about childhood trauma is the fact that you don't get to choose who hurt you. Society is saying this one person is supposed to protect you, provide for you, and be your shield and be your first love, but that's the same person that's hurting you. That's confusion. And I know a lot of people on that video, they just harped on the fact that this was happening also to a childhood friend of hers, and they just made the whole consensus of her video about this is why I don't allow my children to stay the night to other people's house. And they took away the biggest part, that this was supposed to be one of the only people, a mother, a parent, the only person that's supposed to love you unconditionally. They're the one that's causing trauma onto you, and not only causing it to you, they're inflicting it onto anybody around you.
That's one reason I'm a big fan of having two parents raising kids. One of the things I've told parents for years is the job of each parent is to protect the kids from the other parent. Because you're bringing your baggage with you, and your blind spots and your dickishness, and maybe, well, maybe you're too lenient, and maybe your wife's too harsh. And the more harsh your wife is, the more lenient you get. The more lenient you get, the more harsh she gets. So your wife needs to protect the kids from your leniency, and you need to protect the kids from their harshness, and you need to do that with love. Right? How can you keep loving the mother of your children and know that you have to protect your children from their blind spots, their woundings in childhood, their projections, their control issues, their fears? I can't give you this one rule that says here's how you do to protect your kids. Your kids are going to need to go through pain. They're going to need to struggle. They're going to need to have disappointments. And they're going to need to have imperfect parents because they're going to go live in an imperfect world.
I think it's so easy to highlight and make the two-parent household seem polished because there's so much misogynistic, and women being alone is sometimes looked at as less than. If you're a father doing the right thing and taking care of your child, you're praised beyond measures. But when a mother is taking care of her child and doing the motherly duties, it's just looked at as something that you're supposed to do because you're a mother. People will often ask, would you like a cookie for taking your child to school, to taking them to the doctor and feeding them? But on the other side of that, if a man does these same things, they make it seem like he deserves an Oscar for doing something that mothers do every day. And I often think this is the reason why in two-parent households, one parent usually prioritizes the man over herself in the household. And I know a lot of people may think the resolution to this problem is to choose a better partner, to choose a better man for your kids, but I don't think that would fix it. Oftentimes, unhealed people and unsafe people find each other because they both lack emotional development and emotional intelligence. That's actually what draws two unhealed people together. These two people can go on and they can start a family with each other, and they think they may be doing the right thing because this is what society pushes. But in actuality, the conflict and the emotional dysfunction between the two parents becomes the teacher later creating kids that will also be emotionally damaged by this experience. And that's exactly why it's not easy to leave, although you know your situation may be toxic, because your parents did it and their parents did it and their parents did it. It's only now in the last 10 years that people feel more comfortable talking about the abuse and the trauma that they dealt with within a two-parent household.
You're teaching your child by having a two-parent household how to love, how to communicate, conflict.
As a single mom who tried with her co-parent for quite some time, I can say that I agree that a two-parent household is what every child deserves, but it has to be a healthy, happy two-parent household. And I don't believe that we should stay in relationships and in homes that we don't want to be in, that we're not happy in, that's not healthy, that is toxic for the sake of the children and having children together. I think that staying in a situation that you're not happy in does more harm than good. Whether you're arguing in front of them or not, they can feel when mommy or daddy is not okay. They can feel that. Your child deserves a two-parent household that is healthy and happy. So if that means that child has a bonus mom or bonus dad, that is okay. Normalize blended families. Normalize two healthy, happy homes versus one unhealthy.
Just because somebody comes from a two-parent household don't mean shit about their character. It don't mean nothing about their relationship and communication skills. What does it matter if somebody came from a two-parent household if all they seen their parents do was fight, fuss, and cuss each other out? All they seen was abusive dynamics, abusive relationships. They're literally going to copy that pattern. So I'm not saying overall a single-parent household or a two-parent household is better or worse, but like, you have to be able to also mimic healthy patterns. You have to also see healthy behaviors. Because I'm telling y'all right now, some people from two-parent households truly believe that just because they had two people in their house with them, that suddenly they're above, people that come from a single-parent household. And that ego, that feeling of like, oh yeah, I'm better than you because of this, it prevents them from seeing that, like, no, you're actually very flawed. Like, you didn't learn anything healthy from them. You didn't learn, just, I don't know, how to be a good human being in general to people, because that's such a ego boost for you. Like, you pride yourself on coming from a two-parent household and just ignore the rest. It's the same with religious people, how people get baptized or start going to church and they suddenly feel like they're above everybody else.